Hi, this is Billy Cowan with Brothers in Fur Tannery. We have had a lot of requests here lately for doing some videos on fleshing and putting up some fur, preparing them for the market or tanning, whichever the case may be. So I'm going to take a few minutes here and kind of give you a little video, explain what I can explain. This video will be posted on our Facebook page, and we will do a YouTube channel here in the next couple days. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What we have here is just a skinned coyote sent to us frozen. It's a bloody mess, as you can tell. So I'm going to go through and kind of show you what to do to prep it for fleshing and skinning, and then we'll get started going. Alright, I got two very important tools here that we like to use almost all the time. I got my brush, my fur brush, which gets used quite often. Looks pretty mangled, but it still works good. Anytime you get a fur, before you flesh it, you want to brush it out real good. You get the cockaburs, dirt, anything like that, it will put a hole in it. So I like to just start at the top, brush my way down. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just want the cockaburs for the most part. This one looks like he got shot with a high-powered rifle of some sort. He's got some nice holes in him, but that's all right. We'll fix them. Okay. Now I'm going to take a couple minutes and talk about my fleshing knife here. I just recently got this one a couple weeks ago. It's a Weeb, 10.5-inch blade. It's got a sharp side and dull side. Before this, I always used a necker. I like the necker, don't have no complaints about it. But this Weeb, to me, it just fits my hands better. It's got the flat grips. Your hands lay nice and flat. You don't got to worry about rubbing in your fingers with the circle handle. Only thing I will say is it is pretty sharp, so you do have to be careful. Even the dull side has a little bit of an edge on it. So first thing you want to do after you brush it is flip it. I'll go ahead and show you my fleshing beam here real quick. It ain't nothing fancy. It's pretty redneck engineering, but it works great. It's my fleshing beam, and we just mounted it to a weight bench. Got some weights down on the end. You can't really see them, but it helps keep it in place. That's our little twins in the background you guys are hearing. They like to watch Daddy do this stuff sometimes. And Mommy's behind the camera. That's Jessica Cowan, also owner of Brothers in Fur Tannery. Okay, here we go. We got them flipped. I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're working with here a little bit. Hey, Blakely, hush. Anytime you get in a fur, you want to kind of give it a look. Because these holes, you're going to have to be careful with them. Because they will rip open if you're not careful. Some people have a scientific way that they like to start. I don't really care. A lot of times I'll start by the ear, work my way down, do both sides, back and then belly. Do it in about four swipes. You can start at the back, do the belly, then you got a thin side you have to go down. It does not make a difference. Whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you here. You have your sharp side, as always, the cave out, and your dull side's the cave in. That's something you always want to remember when you get a two-sided knife. This sharp side's very sharp. I only recommend using it on beaver, otter, coon necks, and make sure you're skillful with it, you're comfortable with it before you start, because it will cut through a hide pretty easy. So what I like doing is I'll take the dull side and I'll just come up here on the face a little bit. Don't spend a lot of time on the face because it's pretty thin and it really don't make a difference, but I like to clean it up as best as I can. As you guys can tell, I'm using the dull side again, and I'm not putting much weight on this at all. There's just no need. You wear yourself out for no need. A good knife like this, you don't have to put no weight. A knife like a Necker, a Sheffield, an English, you don't have to put no weight on those knives. Now you get into your $17 trap and store special knives, and I'm not knocking them because I actually have one still in my garage that I use sometimes. They're not a bad knife, they just take a little more work. Okay, we got some pretty cranky kids in the background, so I'm gonna make this quick. Not gonna do the whole video, but I'm gonna give you guys an idea of what I'm doing. Alrighty, we were able to pause the video, take care of the kids, so I'm back now. As you guys can see, I started at the ear and I've worked my way about halfway down. You can see that real nice white leather. That's what you want to see right there. Granted, it's not leather yet, it ain't tan, but it will be here in the next week or so. But you want to see that. This little membrane stuff, it doesn't hurt anything. Fur market or tanning, it does not make a difference. Either way, when it gets sent to us tanneries, we got to deal with it. So it ain't, you get it the best you can and you just go. It ain't really worth spending a whole lot of time getting them perfect, especially with the market the way it is. What I will say, coming from a tannery aspect, is if you're not comfortable skinning an animal, you don't know how to do it, find somebody willing to teach you. If you're local, I teach you. I don't care. I don't charge for it. I just love teaching people how to put fur up. Sometimes we get fur that's got more holes in it than Swiss cheese. It's hard to deal with. We still deal with it. We sew them up. My wife, she does all the sewing. She gets a little aggravated when I make her sew 15 holes up in a hide, but it's what we do. We like a hide to look as best as it possibly can. But if you don't know how to skin and flesh, find somebody. There's a lot of old timers that'll teach you. Younger guys just learning that know a little bit, they're willing to teach you also, especially with the market being down. There's also you got guys that put fur up for a living in Indiana here. We got a great one. His name's Dennis Cobb. Best fur put up guy I've ever met in my life. Puts me to shame. He's been doing it for a long time, but he puts me to shame. He's willing to help people. He always offers to help, little to no cost. Especially years when the market's like this, it's just not worth paying for. Alright, I'm gonna shut up for a minute and just do my thing. Let you guys get an idea of what I'm doing here. As you can tell, I'm still using the dull side. One thing I will say is you do not want to hold a knife like this. You hold your knife like this and try to do that. It works, but if you're not careful, you will cut your hide in half, even with the dull edge. Anytime you're on the sharp edge, I switched it over now, I'm on the sharp edge. Anytime you're on the sharp edge and you do this, this is a customer's coyote, so I'm not going to do it. If it was my own, I'd cut it in half for you because I could fix it. But you get that sharp edge and you do that, and that coyote's going to come off in two pieces. You do not want to do that. So anytime, you want to make sure you stay pretty flat. You got to have a little bit of an angle, but you want to stay flat. So I'm back to my dull edge now, and if you notice, I'm just running it right down that. I got the knife flat as I can possibly get it. Sometimes if I get a booger spot, I'll flip it over. But for the most part, I just like to keep it flat. Okay, now I'm going to come back up and do this side, top of the head and this little part of the ear that I kind of missed. I got talking and wasn't paying attention. If you guys notice these flat handles, this knife's not wanting to do this too much. It does it a little bit, but that's just because I'm loosening my grip up on it. If you keep you a nice grip, that knife won't move on you. The Necker with the circle handles, a lot of times it wants to do that. I've even accidentally cut myself a few times with it. Not to mention the blisters are unreal. For a guy that just does a few a season or something, it wouldn't be bad, but there's months during trapping season when we flesh several hundred animals a month. So the more comfort, the better. Don't know if you guys can see that wire tie or not. What we do is we like to use wire ties if we get a lot of people's fur in here at one time. This is our way of identifying who it is. We got a paper back in the office that we write the wire tie collar and then who it belongs to. Some tanneries will use metal tags. I think wire ties work just as great. Never had one come off, never lost somebody's fur. So they work for what we want and they're relatively cheap. Alright, I'm getting ready to get back to those holes we were talking about down here. And I'm going to show you guys how to be careful about that after I get this ear cleaned up. This is our first video we've ever done, so if we look like a bunch of amateurs, that's probably why. We've never done the animal or the video side before. Alrighty, we're back. Sorry, I had to take a short pause there. Alright, we're back down to where the holes are, and I'm going to show you guys here. And I'm not going to promise you I'm not going to rip one of these open, because there's a good chance I probably will. That hole right there is pretty gnarly. Two leg holes right here look like that's possibly where it went in here, maybe came out there. Could be skinning. I'm not the one that skinned it, so I'm not real sure, but I would say that's the exit hole. Looks like a good quartering shot to me. But what we want to do, when we get down to these holes, take your time. Ain't no need to be in a rush. I try to be in a rush because we do so many and I got a lot that I have to get done in a day's time, but just start, tuck that leg back here, hold on to it, keeps it from moving on you. And I'll just start right there at the hole. And as you see, I don't want to go up here and come down on that hole because that's just going to be a disaster. So I'll just start below the hole. Good.
Yep.
Alright, we're back again. I'm going to show you guys here. Sometimes what you find when you're cleaning, fleshing a hide, skinning a hide is, I don't believe this coyote died to buckshot. I could be wrong. Looks like an awful big hole for buckshot to me. But if you look right there, you see a little piece of buckshot. Only one I've seen yet, but I'll keep looking, see if we got more. You want to keep an eye out for that stuff, because if you don't find it, it'll booger you a hole pretty easy. As you guys can see, I just did it. Right there was another one, and I just put a little bitty hole in it. It's actually, if you look, it's got 4 or 5 right here, so he's definitely took buckshot at some point in his life. Like I said, I don't think that's what killed him. This hole looks a little aggressive for buckshot. I could be wrong. I'm a trapper, not a hunter. I'll admit it. Another thing I'll tell you, you guys are going to watch this video and you guys are going to say, man, that's one redneck. I could tell by the sound of his voice. Well, I ain't going to hide it. We're country true and through. A good old Hoosier, as most of y'all. There's another one. There's no real good way of finding them until you do what I'm doing and find them with the fleshing knife. They embed in the skin and they're just hard to see, hard to find. So just be careful when you find a couple, because there's probably going to be more. Whoever shot him right there, they need to go back to aiming school and learn the heads on the other end. Alright, here's that nasty hole. We're going to work on it a little bit. Ain't a whole lot I'm going to be able to do to it. As you guys, right here's more holes. This guy's been plastered. Here's some more holes right here. I'm just going to hit them lightly. You know, a coyote with a hole like this, he ain't going to sell much at the fur market anyways. They're going to consider it damaged. So he ain't going to bring a whole lot of money. He's got decent fur to him, but that hole's going to be pretty tragedy. What I would do if I was going to send this coyote to the fur market, which owning a tannery, we don't deal much with sending stuff off, but we do send some coyotes off. I'd sew it up. Make that look good. I'll make another video sometime about sewing, maybe how to keep your hide looking as best as possible, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now because I'm on fleshing and that's what I've been asked to do, so that's what we're doing. But I would sew that hole up. It's just bad eye appeal. Especially send it up north to the fur harvesters and NAFA. It ain't such a big deal, but you go to a local sale, a guy like me, if I was buying fur at a local sale and I see that, you know, he may dock every fur you have because of the way this one looks. Not saying they will, but it's a possibility. They like to get it for as cheap as they can. So in the long run, the better you make your fur look, the more money you're going to get. I understand with the market not being good, it's a lot of time involved. Trust me, we know all about that. But it still looks good. Make it look as good as possible. As you guys can tell, like I told you, I'm not going to go much around that hole. I don't want to play with that hole. This one's getting tan, so it's going to go in a pickle. That pickle helps loosen it up. I can clean it at a later date. Alright, now I'm getting down in the rough part now. The first part ain't too bad. You get down here and it gets tight to the skin. As you guys that skin them know, you get down around the legs and it becomes a little bit of a nightmare. Everybody wonders why people charge so much to skin and flesh a coyote. Well, the honest truth is, it's a lot of work. It's a pain. Ain't no fun. Nobody likes doing it, and that's why people charge a little bit for it. If I'm charging somebody to skin a coyote, I'm charging them $5 a coyote. Sounds real high, but it takes a little bit of time. Fleshing a coyote, I'm charging $3, and as you can tell from this video, I've not kept anything out. You've seen the whole thing I've done. It takes a little bit of time. I'm not going my normal pace. I'm going a little slower for the video purposes. But it still takes me a half hour or so to flesh a coyote, and I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. So it does take a little time. I will say one thing, having the right tools, that makes a world of difference. My first year trapping, my fleshing knife consisted of a tablespoon that had a sharp edge on it. It worked, but it wasn't effective. Time consuming, very time consuming. I didn't have one of these fancy things. I didn't have a fleshing beam. I used a table, my knee, whatever me and my cousin could find to put the animal on. That's what we used. We taught ourselves how to trap. Didn't know about all this fancy stuff at the time. So we made it work. And you can do the same, but it's just not effective. You're going to get overwhelmed, aggravated. This knife right here I paid $59 for. You can get it from F&T, Dakota Snare Line Products. Hoosier Trapping carries it. That's where I do most of my business at. Charlie and Justin, they're great guys. They've helped me all the way through since I started doing this stuff. They do not have it listed on their website yet, but you can call and order directly. They do have them. This one just came from there a couple weeks ago. Fleshing beams, you can make one. This one here is homemade. Me and my buddy made it. You can buy them pretty reasonable at any trapping store, F&T. Most places you can buy them, you can actually buy them cheaper than what it costs to make them. I just like making them. Alright, now I'm getting down here in the edge, and as you guys can see, I'm getting a little more aggressive here. And I'm not doing it for video purposes, I'm doing it because you have to. You get down here on the bottom and around the legs and the tail, and it just gets tight to the skin, and you gotta give it a little bone to get through. All right, I've got it about where I need it to be to go in the pickling stage. I got other things I'll do later on, fleshing wheels, stuff like that to help get it a little thinner, but I got it cleaned up. Now, let me double check here, make sure you guys ain't seeing something I'm not. I like to pull it off the beam, take an inspection. Get it close to the wife and ask her how it looks. Does it look all right?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay. Looks pretty good. There's a little bit, but like I said, tanning wise, that pickle, it loosens that stuff up. It comes off a lot easier at a later date. Fur market, I may clean it up a little better, but honestly, that's gonna look better than most that you buy from the fur market or send to the fur market, minus the big holes like we already discussed. I'm gonna flip this guy back around. And I told everybody that when I started doing these videos, I was gonna focus on fur put up and not really get into tanning. I understand there's a lot of people wanting to learn how to tan. I respect that. I love tanning. I love everything about fur. Fur put up, tanning. Of course I love tanning. It's what we do for a business. But, you know, at the same time, I can't do a whole lot of videos on tanning because, let's just be honest, in today's economical world, I'd be shooting myself in the foot. But what I will tell you guys is, we get a coyote that looks like this. He's bloody. I mean, he has got blood all over him. That right there, that's unattractive. Sending it to the fur market, you know, I'll tell you guys, fur market or tanning, I wash every coyote I get my hands on. That's me. I like it better that way. So you're going to ask me, how do you wash them? Well, not all of you are going to have an awesome wife like me that lets us use the washer. She don't mind. She's used to it. We tend not to do it more than what we have to, but I'll take cold water, a little bit of Tide laundry soap or whatever laundry soap you use, it don't really matter. And I'll put a little baking soda or a little bit of borax, a little bit of bleach if you got it, but do not mix bleach and borax. It's not a good idea. But I'll wash them on a light load, little water, don't really take a whole lot of water, and I'll just wash them up. Everybody says, now, you can't get a fur wet, that's going to cause slipping issues. Well, let me tell you. Like I said, I've washed every coyote, and I bet I've washed 700-800 coyotes in the last 4 or 5 years. And I have never had a fur slip because of washing it in the washer. The key to it is you got to get it dried as quick as possible. Wring it out, run it on a spin cycle a couple times, let it air dry. Since I'm tanning this one, it's going to go straight from the washer to the pickle. The pH is going to be fine. It's not going to do anything. It ain't going to hurt it. That's a little piece of advice I would offer people. Make your fur look good once again. The better it looks, the more money you're going to get out of it, the better name you're going to have in the industry. You know, some people don't care. Some people, like this coyote for instance, let's give him a look. Let's hold him up here and we're going to take a look at him. Find somewhere nice to hold him. Alright, I got him hung up here. And by no means, I'm not a fur inspector. You know, I'm not great in the fur market as far as what makes a great fur. But I do have quite a bit of knowledge from what I've learned. I've had a lot of help from people, local, internet, Google. But if you look at that coyote, he's got a good fur. Nice thick hair, nice guard hair. He's got the mane a little bit, not too great, but he's got a mane. So he'd bring a nice price in the market, considering what a nice price would be nowadays. He'd bring a good price as far as fur goes. But now if we were to take him like that, they see all that blood, well, your price is in half. Every bit of in half, probably. I'll go on a limb and say if somebody brought me that fur, we're working on getting our buyer's license. We do not have one yet, so I'm not telling you I'd buy this hide. But if I was to buy that fur, I'd probably give, in this condition, I'd probably give $2 or $3 for it. Because I'm going to have to do a lot of work getting it cleaned up. Somebody brings me that hide just like this and it's all cleaned up, minus the big hole. If they sewed that hole up, I'd probably give them closer to 5 for it. So it just goes to show, and those are ballpark figures, don't hold me to that. Like I said, we're still projecting to see what's even going to happen. I may give you $1 for it, I may not buy it all, I may give you 20 bucks for it. It just depends, we'll have to see what happens. But another thing here, I forgot, I was going to do this to begin with, but got a little spaced. When you get a coyote, or any animal for that matter, and you flesh him, or not flesh him, you skin him, throw him in the freezer, you're going to sell him green is what they call it. So a guy like me's got to flesh it, or whatever the case may be. I want to share something with you guys. When you're skinning out those coyotes, split the tail. All you're asking when that coyote's frozen, you're just asking for trouble. You're going to run into slipping at a later date, or if a guy's not experienced, he's going to cut your tail off in half. You're going to end up with a coyote without a tail. Stuff could happen. Many things could happen. Not to mention, it just makes it harder to do when it's not on the carcass. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this. Right or wrong, I'll let you be the judge of that. Some of you may say I'm crazy for doing it this way. I say it works for me and I've never had trouble with it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Every deer hunter's got one of these. It's a gut hook blade. Mine just happens to be a cheap old Remington. I bought it at Rural King in a set for 20 bucks for 7 or 8 knives. Works good. It's cheap. You're going to ask me, how are you going to do this and not twist the tail or cut the tail off? Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, there's a possibility I may cut the tail off. But we're going to do it anyways. So what you do, you take your gut hook blade, I get it started. Now the key to that is you want to make sure you're through one side of the fur. Don't go through both sides, you want to be on one side. So I'm going to get it down and I'm going to hold my hand and I'm just going to drag it to the bottom. A little bit of hair is going to come out, that's no big deal. So what you got is, you got your hide that's fleshed all the way down, your tail's all the way down to the bottom now. It's a lot easier if you do that while it's still on the carcass as opposed to me doing it later on. Alrighty, well I think that's it for this video. Like I said, we'll get it posted on the page and YouTube and stuff like that for you guys to watch. Our middle daughter just walked up. I'm gonna have her get over here, Maddie. Maddie, come here. Get over here. Put your hat on and come here. This is my little fur sidekick right here. This is Madison Cowan. Come here. Stand in front of the coyote. Turn around. Look at mommy. She's got the camera. This is our little fur magnet here. She loves being outside with daddy, working with fur. She does everything she can. She's my pickle stir. She does a lot of detaining help. She likes doing that stuff, don't she? Yep. Alrighty. Well, you guys have a good day and we'll talk to you later.